Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, TEKenable Microsoft today in this joint webinar. We are doing Azure OpenAI, and we're going to look at use cases and AI in action. We're going to record the session. I hope everyone's okay with that. And I'd just like to introduce everyone that will be speaking. I'm Jenny. I'm the Marketing Director from TEKenable. And Rana Kamal is the Technical Specialist from Microsoft. Nick Mac Minara is the Data and AI Specialist. Peter Rose is TEKenable Group CIO. Mohammed Khan is TEKenable's Group CIO. Microsoft CTO, and Annette is our Microsoft Services Director. We'll have a Q&A session at the end, so if you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A and we'll take them from there. So I'm going to hand over to Rana.
So hello, everyone. My name is Rana. I am the Technical Specialist for Data and AI at Microsoft. So I cover all the workloads related to data, analytics, AI on Microsoft Azure from the technical point of view. Just as a background, we had the first Azure OpenAI webinar back in July, and we received a very positive feedback from our customers for this webinar. So this feedback inspired us to dive deeper into the world of Azure OpenAI and explore more new possibilities, or how we can use Azure OpenAI and what are the different use cases. So I'm happy to be here today to have a follow-up session on Azure OpenAI and its use cases with our partner TEKenable. And before we start, I just would like also to introduce my colleague, Nick. So over to you, Nick.
Hi, everyone. So Nick McNamara here. I'm an Azure Data and AI Specialist. So I've been working with Azure for the last 7 years with Microsoft, and I actually recognize a number of the names on the call just from previous engagements, whether that be from a data and AI perspective or from an apps and infra perspective, which was my previous role. Just to give you an idea of what my role is, so I work very closely with Rana, Rana being more technical than me, I suppose. But my role is kind of essentially to kind of accelerate any of the Azure projects that we have with you guys through capable partners like TEKenable. And just to give you an idea, some of the programs that we can kind of to bring to bear for you guys, we have what's called the Enterprise Skilling Initiative. So any of you guys that want to skill your internal teams, we have programs available to kind of to accelerate that for you guys, where Microsoft will part fund your technical skilling on Azure internally. We also have access to kind of technical resources just to reassure you that you're kind of utilizing the right technology, because as you know, kind of Azure is moving very fast, and especially the OpenAI services, or the AI services, and the analytics services. So we have resources that are kind of closely aligned to product group who will basically reassure you that you're utilizing the right technology, and we will work with TEKenable on that. So that's just to give you an idea of where myself and Rana work. Today, the idea today was just to kind of introduce ourselves, just so that you all know who we are. And if you ever want to reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us at any stage. We're here to help, you know. So look, I'll hand you over to Peter Rose now. He's going to take today's session. So thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Rana. Thanks, Nick. Good morning, everybody. Hope this is going to be useful to you. Since the marketing director Jenny's on the call, I have to do the compulsory slide on who we are. I won't sweat it. So essentially, experts in digital transformation through low-code platforms, data and AI. We're over 200 employees, headquartered in Dublin. We're over 20 years old, and we're quite heavily standards based in terms of ISO 9001 and 27001, which I'm sure many of you will recognize as process and security certifications. We're a Microsoft managed partner, solutions partner. We're an advanced Azure specialist with Microsoft and a data and AI partner. And we're growing like crazy. We're in the Deloitte Fast 50 last 4 years in a row. So enough about us. I'll crack into the AI. So was Generative, and what's new in AI? We have, I suppose, to set the scene a little bit. And some of you were on the previous call with Rana, so I'm not going to go into this in any major depth, but just to set the scene, there's at least 3 different types of AI, the AI family. There's machine learning. Machine learning's been around since probably about the 1950s or so, but is really sort of statistical analysis, I suppose, and it's statistical analysis informed using numerical data sets. So it's trained on data. It draws inferences from that data and it tries to make predictions about new data that you give it. Classic examples would be trying to forecast sales for next year, looking at stock in a warehouse and trying to figure out what you should order based on historical demand, anomaly detection in machines, looking if they're running hot or they're vibrating too much, for example, that type of thing. It's really just advanced statistical analysis, but even it has come on in leaps and bounds. And when we're talking about the new AI, the generative side of things, we shouldn't forget that machine learning is there as a form of AI. It's still extremely applicable to business and it's extremely useful. And it has also made advances in what it can do, particularly in the packaging and the ease of use of the applications. You no longer need a team of PhDs, data scientists, etc., to get something useful done with the tools. Microsoft Azure has created applied AI and made this stuff really accessible to anybody that wants to use it. The next type is deep learning. Deep learning, as you're probably aware, is based upon sort of brain chemistry and trying to model how the brain works with neurons and synapses and so on. And again, it's been around for a good while. I was working on deep learning probably back late 80s, early 90s, somewhere in that region. We didn't really call it that at the time, but neural networks were certainly around then. But they've taken an explosion and there's various different variations on them. Things called convolutional neural networks, for example, are relatively new. Very, very capable. But again, they're limited to, a bit like the statistical, the machine learning stuff, it's more or less limited to predictions, identification, classification. It's looking at data you give it and drawing some conclusions from it. So the type of thing would be, analyzing what's in an image. This image contains a cow in a field. Looking at people's facial expressions, for example, and determining if they're, or trying to determine, are they happy, are they sad, where are they in your store from the video cameras, that type of thing is classic deep learning applications. What's new, and by new I mean, became really accessible to the general public and to business this year, is the generative AI stuff, which is a subset of deep learning. Well, what makes it new is for the very first time, it is generating new content, new output, whether that's narrative text in the form of reports or summaries, shopping lists, holiday itineraries, whatever you're having yourself. I'm sure a lot of you will have seen the chat GPTs of this world generating text, but it also generates images, computer software, music, various different, lots of different types of output is possible from generative AI. And that's new original works based upon learning and patterns that it has been trained on, and not simply an analysis of or a classification or identification of something existing. And that's what separates generative AI from deep learning, that is based on deep learning, of course. So what do you need to know about generative AI? What is the key things that we talk to people about? Well, I've covered some of it already, but essentially it's that it is, clues in the name. It is generative. It is generating new things for you. It's creating new content, new software, etc., etc. We use the software element ourselves in our own business on some of our projects. We are generating elements of the software using AI and reviewing it for accuracy and completeness. We are, of course, like most businesses, generating some of our content. Some of our website pages were initially generated using the GPT-4 models, etc., and then reviewed by a human reviewer, tweaked and augmented by that human reviewer, but essentially generated by generative AI. I'm going to show you a bit later on. One of the demos I'm going to do is image creation. I'm going to show you some of the images I've created for a PowerPoint presentation that I'm giving later on in the month. And they are, to be frank, fabulous. They're really impressive. So content generation, high quality content. The generation of this content is a Kickstarter. It's a start of a 10, and it's a really good start of a 10. And it can really save you a lot of time and money, and also help you reach a wider audience and enable you to generate content that is customized to particular audiences as well, not just a one-size-fits-all type of model. Product development, it could be used to sort of what kind of products would people look for, what kind of features might they have. You can use it to generate descriptions of those product marketing materials and content, and generally sort of test out an innovative new ideas that you want to launch on the unsuspecting public. It's actually really good for generating that kind of supporting materials around the product, and also for brainstorming ideas with the content generation. But the one we're seeing most of all in terms of the use in business, apart from content generation, is by a long mile, is customer service. And in the context of customer service, as well as create, we've all seen chatbots. They've been around for a long time, but now we can create really, really advanced chatbots with a high degree of transaction capability, with a really high degree of knowledge and information, and no longer requiring to train them on specific question and answer sets. For example, we don't have to guess what the customer will ask. One of the demos that my colleague Mohammed is going to give later will show you a knowledge mining solution that we have built based upon the Azure OpenAI that will allow you to interrogate documents that contain the corpus of knowledge, if you like, about a particular topic. We don't have to train it with questions and answers pre-thought. We just give it the knowledge through the document, and the system understands those documents and can answer any question that's pertinent to the content that is thrown at it. So chatbots, but a new generation of chatbots that are far, far more capable than they were before. We can use it to suggest answers to questions that customers have raised, issues they might have, for example, and help resolve those. We can use it and are using it in the context of, for example, insurance claims, to summarize claims, to summarize the documentation in order to make it easy for a manager to read an abstract, to read the summary of what can be quite a large set of documents, etc. And to also enable it to make decisions or recommend actions based upon these. And of course, all of this frees up the human being in the customer service department to focus on more complex tasks and things that require skill sets that AI does not yet possess. So emotional intelligence, empathy, that type of thing, that is a real human attribute, human characteristic. It frees up the customer service team in your company to apply more of those skills in the more tricky tasks, the more complex and challenging things that can actually genuinely be transformative in the relationship with your customer. When they see you applying that much care and attention to you, and how much you care about resolving their issue or assisting them with their purchase, it can really make a huge difference to the perception of your brand. And generative AI, of course, is a rapidly developing technology. As it says on the slide, it's roughly doubling in capability every 6 months or so. How long it can sustain that is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that, but it's already achieved parity and exceeded parity actually about 2022, 2021-ish. It exceeded parity with an average human, educated human, in terms of understanding language, in terms of understanding handwriting and reading and so on, sort of some of the perception type tasks that it's really good at. So if you can imagine that it's doubling every 6 months from a baseline of being equal to an average educated human in certain tasks a couple of years ago, the mind boggles as to where this is actually going to take us, and that in itself creates its own challenges for business in terms of where to apply it and what to plan. So the benefits are pretty clear. Increased productivity, improved decision making, and the creation of new business opportunities. The earliest ones were cybersecurity companies, for example, creating AI-based defense. Microsoft Defender has AI support for SOC teams operating in a cybersecurity context, defending their organizations against attack. It's giving them real insight into what is happening and what they need to be concerned with. What are the challenges that they need to pay attention to right now, as opposed to just the noise in the data. But equally, unfortunately, the bad guys have access to the exact same tools, and they're using it for the opposite side of it. So there are new business opportunities, new AI companies sprouting up every day. There's at least 10,000 AI startups around the world that have been built on the back of the whole OpenAI capabilities. So it's going to have to shake out eventually, and there'll be winners and losers. But right now, it just shows the potential for what you can do with it. Where will it hit? Is a question that I get asked quite a lot. Where is it going to have the most benefit? And this is a slide that I've shamelessly stolen from McKinsey. It's a really good representation. I hope you can find your industry on here. What you can see is that right at the top there is professional services, which is not surprising because it's human-driven activities. It's mostly the sort of writing of reports and summarizing of information and doing analytics type of activities in professional services, whether that's solicitors or software development type companies. They rely on human beings, highly educated human beings, to undertake the tasks, and that's where the advantages are most likely to hit. But even the lowest one on this scale here at 27% leisure and restaurants, still a 1/3 potential increase in efficiency is huge, absolutely gigantic. I've never seen anything like it before in terms of the potential capability for improvement within an organization. If you look at that by job role instead of by industry, what you find is again a similar correlation in that the most impacted or the most benefiting role, if you like, is management and finance operations. So classically, the correlation is the more educated you need to be in order to perform the job. So from sort of degree to master's degree to PhD type of thing, the more generative AI can actually assist you in your role. And the more manual the activity is, right down there in manufacturing, the less generative AI can impact your role, but it still has an impact. And it's really interesting to see that that spans the whole range of industries as well as roles within industries. The general consensus out there is that there are trillions of dollars being added over the next 2 years to the world economy through the use of generative AI. We're not necessarily talking about job losses, but that brings us on to my next slide, which talks about risks. So job displacement is an issue, but I can give you an example if you're interested at some point in the near future in terms of the movie industry and what it means for script writers and actors, for example. And it's not perhaps what you might think it is. It isn't actually the end of script writers and actors. It's more about the end actually of the movie studios themselves, with still having a role for script writers and actors is how I see it. But at the end of this session, we're going to have a question and answer. If I ever shut up and let people get in and we finish the webinar, we'll have a question and answer session, and Annette, perhaps if we have time, you can ask me about that and I'll explain it further. But it is something that you have to take account of, is the potential change in work. And the CEO of an insurance company said something I thought was really, really insightful. He said, never underestimate the ability of the working middle class to reinvent themselves. And he's not concerned about AI displacing his workforce. He's concerned about being able to reinvent that workforce and retrain them and reskill them in terms of being able to make best use of the AI. That's what he feels is going to happen, and I agree. Bias, we probably all heard about bias. It can be very, very subtle. It's not as simple as all data sets must contain male and female, applicants for loans, that type of thing. It can be an institutional bias that you don't see, that's embedded in the data used for training, because it's the way your institution made decisions over the years are recorded in that data. And you may not be aware of it. It would take a lot of statistical analysis to surface it, but there could be bias in your data, and you're simply reinforcing that institutional historical bias if all you do is train your models on your own data and you don't really consider it, really look at it, and perhaps even include synthetic data in the training data set to balance it. Data privacy has been a concern. We don't have a concern because we're here talking about Azure OpenAI, and that has really substantial controls around data privacy and data protection. But certainly in the wider world, if you're using the non-Azure OpenAI and some of the other service offerings, that is something to be aware of and acutely aware of. And a paradigm shift, and this is really important. Up until sort of now-ish, the expectation of a computer system is that it's 100% accurate in everything it does. But, you know, bugs in the system aside, which can be found and shot and resolved and whatever, our expectation is the computers are 100% accurate. And financial services, the regulator, for example, accepts that human beings will make mistakes and looks for governance and controls around that to mitigate those mistakes when they happen. They don't expect the human to be 100% accurate, but they always expect the computer systems to be 100% accurate. And deep learning models are not. They are never, ever, ever 100% accurate. So you have to take it with the view that the deep learning model is suggestive, supportive. Microsoft used the terminology Copilot, and I think it's very good. It's not an autopilot. It's not taking control. It's not making decisions. It's sitting beside a human being who makes the decisions, and it's a supportive technology that's enabling that human to do it more efficiently and quicker. It's a really important concept when implementing this stuff. And of course, regulation. And if anybody has particular concerns about that, they can talk to us. We've done quite an extensive analysis of the AI Act. But generally, generative AI type applications are considered low risk and hence very light touch regulation in most cases. So in terms of winners, there's a list up here in terms of things you should do if you want to win in the AI race, and I'll get on to examples in a second of some winners. So the first thing is develop a strategy. You need to know why you're going and what you're doing with this. There's a real risk with any new technology that you take a scattergun approach. We'll try a bit of this, we'll try a bit of that. And that's okay if you're taking it from a research and development perspective. It's not okay if you're implementing it into your business. It's kind of connected to the next bullet point, which is avoiding toys. The temptation to implement toys and do hundreds of pilots of all sorts of things is quite high. What we recommend is you avoid toys and you implement technologies that enable a process change. Because if it doesn't enable a process change, or you don't seek to have that process change as a result of implementing it, then that's what that technology is a toy. It can be an expensive toy, it could be a cheap toy, but it is just a toy. It needs to make some sort of change in the behavior of the people in your business, and some sort of benefit must arrive out of that change. The AI itself cannot, in of its own right, develop or deliver that benefit. And we talked about skilling for AI employees and reinventing some of the roles in terms of the people that you have in your organizations. And again, being aware of the mitigations for risk, which come with the benefits, making sure that you comply with the regulations. And of course, what we're finding, we run 3-hour workshops typically with our customers, and when they want them. And one of the key themes that comes out of those workshops on every single occasion is needing a comprehensive data strategy within the organization and data governance in order to underpin the AI initiatives that they want to take on. And we are engaged in quite a few projects for companies that actually wanted to get their data in order, get their systems in order, and the Microsoft platforms around One Fabric and the Synapse stack and so on are absolutely ideal for that, and Purview around the governance side of things as well. So again, if anybody wants more information about that, feel free to reach out. So examples. I suppose we talked about chatbots a bit in terms of they've been around a long time, but the new AI capabilities of generative AI, cognitive search, and the sort of scale that's available to you through the Azure platform and some of the applied AI, the machine learning type capabilities, have really enabled this to take off. And also, I suppose the growing generation, the much acclaimed Generation Z, coming up, and the demand for online services and 24/7, etc., in terms of availability to customers, it's just an expectation these days. It's not a nice to have. It's not necessarily a differentiator. It's a negative differentiator if you don't have 24/7 capabilities and service, but it can be a real positive if you do as well. You see some examples there. The Pizza Hut ability to place orders, ask questions, custom mixes, get information about calorie content and so on and so forth. The targeting of deals, so discount codes and so on and so forth, driven by AI based upon their buying behavior. and of course the ability to track the delivery status. Something similar from Octopus Energy. Octopus Energy are using AI to help people understand some really quite complex things around rates, plans, and billings. They can ask questions, and this is what I was talking about now, is the ability for generative AI to truly understand the knowledge base that sits underneath these things. And it's not a predefined question and answer pair that it's trying to match and spit out this sort of one size fits all answer. It can truly understand the question that's being asked. It can probably answer it with a nice summarized response, but it can also access information and data about that particular customer. And use that as part of the information that it tailors the response from, and that's really powerful. And you'll see a little bit of that a bit later on in the webinar with my colleague. And then Progressive Insurance, I really like this one. Progressive is a US insurance company, and they created a persona. They called her Flo, and they have an actress with a really extrovert and very casual attitude to insurance, very sort of matter of fact and happy. And Flo, as the chatbot, matches that persona. It's behaving, because the prompts that are given to the generative AI that's creating responses tell it to, it's behaving in exactly the same way that Flo does. And they spelt out what that persona consists of, say answer in the style of this, and they fed it some examples so it understands how to sort of follow on. And Flo can also answer silly questions. Well, not silly, but unrelated to the business, as what's your favorite movie? What do you like to listen to at night? And it created an entire persona around this person and trained the generative AI to understand that and respond as Flo. And then just to put it and make it really, really good, what they've done is they've taken the Azure OpenAI capability for custom voices, and they've used the actress to train that custom voice so it responds with Flo's voice, not just her personality. Then looking at sort of marketing and customer service side of things, we have Unilever. That is, for the first time, and we have actually seen this earlier in the year in terms of phishing campaigns, where the bad guys are creating highly customized phishing messages. They're scraping your social media, they're scraping your company website, and they're using that to compile automatically, using generative AI, a phishing message that is highly targeted to you individually, and they can do that at massive scale. Well, Unilever is using it for the power of advertising, as opposed to try and break into your systems. And they're using the generative AI technology to generate different versions of ads, different social media posts, even different emails going out to their customers based upon their behavior, their interests, and information that they legitimately know. They're not scraping social media profiles and stuff like that, but information that they legitimately know about you as a customer, and trying to highly tailor it, again, at scale in their marketing and reach out. Nestle are using DALL-E 2. I need to upgrade because DALL-E 3 is available now. We'll show it later, to generate images that are somewhat photorealistic and show their products in the settings of the potential user, so that user can visualize what their products will look like in their own context. And again, they can do this at massive scale at very low cost, and the incremental improvement in the sales they get is well worth the cost of actually doing this, the effort to implement it, and as well as the cost to actually generate the imagery. Their return on investment is very significant over the top of that cost, as it is with most generative AI. And then Liberty Mutual at the bottom there, I've given two sort of extreme examples of accident damage. One, slight scuff on the bumper, and the other one sort of, probably not going to drive again type of damage. They have a AI-based mobile application that, in the event of an accident, their customer can take photographs of the accident scene, the damage, and can basically get that assessed automatically. What that does is it starts a claim with Liberty Mutual, but it does more than just file the images. It makes an assessment of the images. It estimates the accident damage. It estimates whether the vehicle is a write-off or not, sets the appropriate reserve, as insurance companies call it, the amount of money they put aside for paying the claim, and summarizes the whole thing into a claims handler summary for the processing to take place. And if it's under a certain threshold, then the claims processing will just be approved, and it's a near instant process that the claim is approved and you're assigned a garage to do the repairs. If it's a bit bigger, they've got a claims file and it's all nicely prepared and ready to go for the claims handler to make the assessment. Really, really powerful use of image recognition. So a couple more examples here. The DMV Marine, an interesting company. They basically repair equipment on ships. We're talking large ships. We're talking super tankers here. We're talking about the very large cargo vessels with thousands of big containers transporting stuff around the world, goods from all sorts of countries. They had a problem. They got 80,000 support cases annually. Each support case started with an email from a ship saying, my crane has broken, my fridge in the galley has broken, whatever it is, something has failed that they support. And each case had to be responded to, routed to the right expert in the right geography that expert could get on board that ship and actually fix the problem. In some cases, it would mean the ship couldn't sail if they didn't. They were failing all their SLAs. They couldn't respond in time to 80,000 support cases a year. So what they did was they took AI, they trained it on 250,000 previous emails and who that email was routed to recognize the nature of the request, to recognize the geography, and to identify the appropriate expert. And then they let the AI loose to actually send that email automatically. So rather than having to wait for a human to assess the incoming support case, the AI made the assessment and routed it to the expert near instantly. Result? Well, an 82% accuracy, which is interesting, is exactly the same as the human, which it would be because it was trained on the routing made by the human. But it increased the ability to give it feedback, because if it went to the wrong human, the human could tell it, I'm not the right human, you need to send it to somebody else, and then it would learn from that. So it will improve from the 82% accuracy. But it reduced the manual workload by 70%, 2 to 3 full-time employees per year equivalent, enabled them to meet all of their SLAs and reduce their customer downtime. So the customers were delighted by this sudden apparent improvement in response and effectiveness of response. Now, just mindful of time here, so I've got one left to go, and then it's my colleague into demos. And this is a favourite of mine. What you're looking at here is a electrical safety certificate. Some of you might have seen one of these if you had some electrical works done in your house. We have built the system that manages the electrical and gas safety certification process. When we built it, they wanted to keep the paper forms, the actual printed certificates, etc. That's changing, as you would expect, but it means there's about 1 million certificates between gas and electrical safety that have to be processed every year by the organization we built this for, and they're handwritten. So when we first built it, we did an assessment of the accuracy of scanning this, and what you're seeing here is a real certificate redacted because it's obviously got real details on it. And you can see the quality is rubbish, right? The handwriting is very hard to read. If you look at the ticks, about a third of the way down on the right-hand side, they start in the box, but they also span another box and so on. This is actually what we get is the 3rd carbon copy. The customer gets the pristine version with the ink on it. Other organizations get the other copies, and we get the 3rd carbon copy, the worst quality possible. We were getting about an 80%, 75, 80% hit rate in terms of our accuracy of reading it using Azure AI to read the handwriting 2-3 years ago. We have upgraded it to read the handwriting using the latest Forms Recognizer application from Azure. And 2 things of interest. One, we no longer have to train it because Forms Recognizer is intelligent enough to scan the form and understand the structure of the form, so we don't have to tell it the structure anymore. 2, the accuracy rate has actually gone up to 95%, which is a staggering increase. And it's what I was talking to you about earlier in terms of don't dismiss the machine learning as being old technology. That quote unquote old technology is making leaps and bounds in terms of its capabilities along with the generative AI. And this sort of capability of 95% accuracy, we still present it to a human being to review what's been read, but we make some inferences from the data we're reading. We validate the certificate number, we validate the contractor's registration number, and so on and so forth when we read it. But we still present it to a human to make sure that they're confident it's in Copilot mode, not autopilot mode for reading the search. But it's just an illustration that it's the applied AI, the machine learning, is equally interesting, if not in some cases more applicable actually than the generative AI. So you need to be paying attention to both. Now, I've spoken for long enough, and the time has come that you've all been waiting for Peter to shut up and Mo to take over. I'm going to show you Copilots. We're going to show you knowledge mining, which we call chat with your documents, and then it's back to me for a few minutes to show you AI image creation. Over to you, Mohammed.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone. So hopefully this is an interesting part of the conversation for you. So what I'm going to do is kind of explain very quickly what Copilot is. So within Microsoft product stack, almost every product that you normally interact with, whether it's Windows, whether it's the Dynamics kind of customer engagement products, whether it's Office 365, Outlook, Word, Excel, and even the developer tools we use typically in our day-to-day for helping to build custom solutions, they're all getting this Copilot experience. And what it is essentially the Azure OpenAI, the ChatGPT 4 version of the OpenAI running inside your tenant, working with your data. So the data doesn't leave the tenant, and the Copilot knows who you are. So it has a context of that Mohammed's logged in here. This is the data Mohammed can read. So it uses all the data in your Office 365 and whatever product you're actually using Copilot in to ground its response. And then with each product, obviously, it needs different skills. So working in Excel versus working in CRM here, which I'm showing you, or working in Outlook, it needs to be able to do certain specific things that a user in that application would need help with. In this case, what I'm showing you on my screen here is Dynamics 365 Sales with the Copilot enabled. Now, this is a very early preview version, and this is running actually right now in our North America tenant. So
no, I can't actually see a share. If you're sharing something, I just see your video.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. Just confirm when you see it.
Yep, that's it. I can see Dynamics 365.
Apologies.
Yep.
Cool. So so this is Dynamics 365 Sales, and the Copilot, like all the Copilot products baked into the Microsoft kind of product stack, they load as an assistant on the left-hand side, as you can see here. And based on where it's loading, it's either called Sales Copilot or Customer Service Copilot and so on. And it can do different things, but it grounds itself. So this is an early preview version. It doesn't do what's promised in the final iteration, and it's coming in a couple of months, and possibly just waiting for infrastructure to roll out in the various data centers. In this case, I'm just going to open up an opportunity in my sales. So I'm going to look at this opportunity and just wait for that to load, please. So it's as soon as the opportunity loads, you can see Copilot goes into action and gives me a quick summary, so that if this is something I haven't looked at in a couple of weeks or a month, I can come back and really catch up to see, here's the summary for this opportunity. Give me the highlights here. I can copy them and send them to a colleague. I can get some latest news about this account. And I can actually, so the types of prompts that it suggests for you. So if there's an upcoming meeting, it'll help me prepare for it. I can catch up, get some more details on this opportunity, summarize it, get the latest news that I showed you. So that's based on the Copilot understanding. Obviously, you see it's linked into using plugins into Bing. So it can actually ground its response back from this data, plus also directly about your customer from whatever is available in the Bing index. So typically, an interesting thing you could do there is, I'm looking at this customer needs to restock their supply of products. So maybe I want to set up send them an email. So I'll just go on my timeline inside. I'll go email, and as soon as the email screen loads, my composer the Copilot is going to help me to compose the email. So I can say, please draft an email suggesting a meeting over Teams to discuss if we can integrate inventory management system. We stock down. I'm just coming up with this datum. So what it does is it kind of looks at what I've asked it to do, and it's now preparing a draft that I can accept. I can get it to try out, but this is basically showing that you can quickly get productivity. You see, it's actually, I've given a very small prompt, but it's actually now suggesting why we should do it, and it's added quite a lot of information there. So I can adjust the parameters. There's a couple of settings, or I can just press the add to email, and there you go. It's popped into the body of the email. And all I have to do is replace the name of that with the customer's name. So she's Sydney. And maybe I'm happy with this, and I go talk. So that kind of gives you an idea of how you can, switching between different opportunities as a salesperson. You can gain some productivity advantage, help you compose a professional email that looks good. You can see a copy of the email then on the timeline. And this is kind of a very quick snippet. So it's using the data that's in the opportunity, plus its understanding of, generally natural language, and it can help you do a couple of things. Let me just go catch up on the opportunity to see what it thinks is happening. Catch up and go, which one there go needs. So you can actually use this even if the opportunity is not loaded. So I just chose that one there that I'm working on. And I go, there's no new updates for this since the last 7 days. So I haven't actually added any activity. I haven't moved it up in the business process flow. So it has an understanding very quickly. It can look at the record and give you a quick heads up as to what's going on. So that's an early preview. There's a lot more features that are promised in the final version, but this gives you a quick idea of how salespeople can use Sales Copilot within Dynamics. The same tool is available in Outlook. So if the customer respond back and you're looking at Outlook and you see the email come in, Copilot would be able to see the opportunity details the same as it can here. And from within your Outlook, you could just do the same that I just did there, respond, get an update, suggest something for them. So the experience for the Sales Copilot for the salespeople is not restricted only to the actual Dynamics app, but also they can take it into Teams and into Outlook. So it's quite powerful. Within Teams, if the meeting is set up by the salespeople who have the Copilot license, they can actually get quick summaries at the end of. So Copilot joins the call. It looks at the transcript of the call if it's recorded and transcribed, and actually give you quick notes and action points out of the call. You can circulate as minutes very easily instead of spending an hour or two trying to kind of work through your notes. So very, very, very kind of productivity gains can be garnered from Copilot usage. I'm switching over to the customer service hub. So in this case, again, I have my customer service Copilot. Now this Copilot works slightly differently. It is works in 2 or 3 scenarios. So one, if you're looking at a case, I can use Copilot to actually grab information about from knowledge bases. So the premise is that you as an organization using customer service, use the knowledge management aspect, and you have published a number of, as you resolve cases over time to help your customer service agents quickly respond to similar scenarios reoccurring with different customers. You've created knowledge articles that are published. Once they're published, Copilot considers them in its response, whether the response is when you're looking at a case, composing an email, or if you're using omni-channel, which I don't have in this demo, because that requires a couple of agents and an external party to talk. But if you have web chat, for example, or incoming conversations from a bot running on your website, the Copilot is helping you respond to multiple, because typically agent would be kind of handling 5, maybe 6 different chat conversations simultaneously. So the Copilot sits in each one, and as you switch between them, it helps you. In the case where you're using it in case management, the quick thing it can do with the same summarization is actually built into the case form. So I just come into this case. I just started my shift. I need to pick this up to meet the SLA for the team. And I just get it to quickly summarize that the customer, Susan, has reached out regarding a delay in shipment for the recent order. We seem to have sent back a response apologizing. So we've sent back an email. And if I look down, there's an email there. So one of my colleagues there, before I joined the shift, had actually sent back an email response. So now I'm kind of caught up, and I need to pick this up as part of my kind of SLA responsibilities. So I open up Copilot, and the first thing I need to know is I need to kind of inform the customer and myself, actually, because I've forgotten what our normal shipping times are. So what this Copilot can do is look at the knowledge base, but I can also point it up to 5 external web resources on the internet. Maybe there are other websites or other systems we're operating, or there's generally, some general kind of knowledge base or FAQs that might be helpful in our industry. So I'm going to ask the Copilot to just give me some information about our kind of order shipment times, and you just wait for that to read through the knowledge base. It looks at all the articles and it gives me back information about the shipping times. So I'm going to check the source. I want to be sure that, it's a Copilot. It may have made a mistake. So maybe I'm curious. I don't believe it. So I go order shipment times. And what that's going to do is it's going to go off and open the knowledge article, which maybe a couple of years ago or earlier this year, another colleague of mine would have composed. And I can see this is the content, and it's found the right article. And unlike a search, it didn't give me back 20 results. It actually read all the published articles, found the relevant one based on obviously natural language understanding. This one is appropriately named order shipping time. It immediately picked up on it and extracted to me what I really wanted to know. So I'm in my flow. I don't have to go and do a separate search. I just ask Copilot, and I'm going to give it feedback, and I say, yeah, it's good. I can send it to the customer. So this functionality, I think it's not enabled in the early preview, but you can see that there's stuff that's going to come. So I'm just going to write an email. Let me just get Copilot to help me. So I'm going to go write an email. It says, yeah, I can help you, but you need to start an email. So I'm going to go start email, as I showed you. Okay, so I'm going to give. I just said, give me a couple of sample prompts. I said, give the customer an email, some more details about the product and the service. So let's see what it makes up with. So it says, thank you for reaching out. After reviewing your information, we found that we offer multiple shipping options. So I didn't even tell it to compose an email giving shipping times. It understood what I was doing earlier. As soon as I switched to the write an email, it read what was happening. It read the previous email. It's obviously got a sense of what I'm talking about because it understands turn-based conversations. And it's actually voluntarily gone off and produced an email with shipping time information. So that's actually quite a lot of time saving. I'll just copy that in, and as soon as I press the button, it adds it to the email body. It's even picked up our name, so it's slightly better than the sales one at the minute for this version. So I've basically, very quickly, without doing lots of searching, without writing a couple of paragraphs of an email, which is at least 10-15 minutes of somebody's day. And when in customer service, response times and meeting SLA targets and number of cases you handle, they are actually quite important. Let's see what it makes of the summary. Now we've had some action, so maybe it takes a little bit of time to make that into the index it uses. But So we have delayed recent order, apologized. The customer was advised to contact the shipping company. Okay, so it's, you can see now that it's actually modified the summary. It has taken into account that we have responded just a couple of seconds ago with an email giving, advising her of shipping times, and contacting the actual company itself. So that email is there, but now it's using both the emails to summarize. So it's a very, I suppose, interesting example of how you can quickly gain. This is available, as I said, whether you're looking at a single case or whether you're in kind of a incoming call center scenario where there's multiple chats and incoming calls coming in, and you got multiple sessions open in the omni-channel product that is an add-on to customer service. So the Copilot is helping you respond to each chat, and you can see how that would improve productivity of an individual. But they still have that responsibility to verify, check the sources where the information is coming from. They need to understand what to trust and what not to trust, and that's only going to come with time. So that's the kind of Copilot experience I was going to show you. So let me just swivel over to our knowledge mining demo. So let me just warm the resources up and explain what's happening here. So what you're seeing on screen here is an app that is hosted in Azure. And it is a chatbot, but it is one of those kind of chatbots with generative AI behind it. So it's not like scripted responses going down a decision tree of prompts and possible responses eventually ending with a dead end. What this is essentially documents for a company, a fictitious company, Contoso. They have been uploaded. These are employee handbook information. So there's information about the health plans available to employees. There's information about how performance reviews are carried out, and the roles and responsibilities. So there's some example prompts there of the types of questions you can ask this bot. And essentially, we have uploaded the content as well and indexed it with Azure Cognitive Search. It's an AI-based search which creates like a semantic understanding of the content. So let me just ask the bot, and just bear with it the first time around. It's a little bit slow to respond because it's trying to start up. Yes, there we go. So what is included in my Northwind Health Plan Plus that is not in standard? So essentially, I could have just opened up the handbook. Maybe the handbooks are essentially PDFs, maybe 5, 10, 20 pages, and the information is somewhere in there. And that's typical of most organizations. Most of the data is not in CRMs and ERPs. Actually, most of the knowledge of the organization is in unstructured format, especially documents, Word documents and PDFs and so on. So this response is formed after the actual information was grabbed from, so the documents related to the information were read in, and some instructions, system or meta prompts as we call them, were sent in to the large language model, and it's come back with the brief answer. So there is some prompt engineering going on behind this, is what it's called. So this is a particular chat domain for an HR employee handbook. If I'm interested in the responses source, I can click on that, and it'll actually load that particular section of the document, which it read to form the response. And for demo purposes, we kind of, the citations are obviously, they're good to have, just like I showed you in the Copilot. What it did is it read the content, a couple of documents, and it created this as supporting content. And what we do is add in some instructions, a system or a meta prompt. So the question that the natural language question or query that the user is asked it actually goes through, and it's assessed, and that's what is actually looking for in the content. Northwind Health Plan Plus coverage details. So it doesn't care about what's included, what's not included part. It actually understood that and said, okay, that's what you want. It's used that and grabbed the supporting content, and then before it sends this content with instructions, the instructions for the system are that you are an assistant. You help company employees with their healthcare plan questions and questions about the employee handbook. So this is instructions or a persona for this chat domain, which is the employee handbook chat domain that we have formed. So be brief in your answers, only answers from the facts listed in the sources below. If there isn't enough information below, say you don't know. Do not generate answers that don't use sources below. So this is important to use these types of techniques because we're trying to ground the response from within a specific kind of chat domain's content. So the content is a document. It's already been published, exists in the organization. It's uploaded and indexed, and a kind of a semantic understanding layer has been added using cognitive AI search. But what we need to make sure is that creativity that this model has, that allows it to generate all sorts of imagery that people show later on, and to be able to answer questions and understand your natural language, and write books and give bar exams, that creativity has to be tempered a little bit because you're trying to focus it on your particular use case. So we keep going on further and say, if you need to ask clarifying questions that would help, do ask them. And if you need, we need to give tables and use HTML as a way to respond back to tabular information. And it says use the sources below, which is basically the same supporting content. So I'm just going to close that off and continue with the inquiry. So I'm just going to ask it, what about hearing? Now, what this demonstrates is it understands that there's a larger conversation happening. There's a turn-based conversation. So I don't have to explain to it from the health plans as such. I just go, what about hearing? And it's extracted that information out about hearing cover in one of the plans and what's the difference there. So I might be curious about, actually, I just want to know generally what the differences are between the 12 plans. Please.
Just while you're talking that, Mo, I'm just conscious that we're heading towards the 11 o'clock mark, and a lot of people probably have to go at 11.
Okay, so I'll just do one more of this one.
Yeah, no, you're fine. But what we're going to do, we'll continue on with your demo. I think it's really interesting. And if anybody wants to see the DALL-E 3 demo, they can stay on. I'll be doing that in sort of 5 minutes or so, or less, if I can manage it. And for anybody who can't stay, thank you very much for attending. We're happy to get questions if you want to send them in to us. And the video of this will be published, so you'll be able to see the last few minutes of it if you wish later on online. Thank you very much. Sorry, Mo, please continue.
No worries. So while Pete was explaining that, I just asked the question, please provide me a summary of the comparison between the two health, I actually said health plans rather than health plans as an HTML table. It actually figured out that I made a mistake. It corrected my spelling and actually extracted the information from two different documents that it read, and it gave that to me in a table as I asked it. Something like that you had to write before with algorithms and kind of a custom parser and code would be virtually a lot of hard work, or almost difficult to do for documents you don't know what the structure of it is. I'm going to just do another quick one, party trick here, which is maybe English is not my best language. So since the language model has been trained on the kind of all the openly available knowledge on the internet up to 2021, the GPT-4 model, it kind of has read the internet content in various languages. So you don't need to use the translation service. It understands style and how languages are written by humans when they're talking to each other or publishing content on the internet. So hopefully, there you go. So I just said, give me the same information in Arabic, and it's actually done that translation. It's giving me the citations. So I challenge you to prove that that's incorrect Arabic. I think that's going to be difficult, but that's essentially. And I think one more. So this is again, not relevant for a company, but just to prove that it actually knows styles of writing, since there is content on the internet where pirates are speaking, let's say in a book. So I'm asking it to respond as a pirate. I didn't even tell it to respond to what, and you can see there, it's actually formed a response and it's added pirate speak into it. So that shows you that you have to think about how you want to use this and what chat domains this affects you. But we're typically seeing customer service, sales scenarios, technical kind of advisory consulting type scenarios where there's lots of content there that you cannot curate. It can actually quickly allow you to respond. Just one quick one I'll just show you here, and this is a R&D project we're working on, so I'm not going to go too much in detail, but we're looking at an ask your database. So the same type of scenario, but asking questions where you don't know how to write database queries. You ask the actual chatbot questions like find me your top 10 customers or list suppliers with no products sold. And if you can see here, I did prompt while we were looking at Pete's demo. So it gave me the suppliers with no products sold. That's the question I asked it. So list me suppliers with no products sold, and I can ask it, give me the total customers with the top 10 customers, or I can ask it to give me the products sold, the most products sold in product table. So what it's doing is actually it's looking at the schema, and that's the interesting part here behind the scenes is. So this is an extract from my notebook in Python, but essentially that's the prompt that goes in that I asked, list the suppliers with no products sold. What it actually does is it looks at the schema and it's finds all the tables, and then it has a thought which it brings back to the app, says all the relevant tables for this query seems to be product and sales order details. So I didn't have to give it schema details. I didn't have to create indexes in advance in some sort of a cognitive search type service. All I did was say, there's the database, go figure out. So if the database's schema is named in any reasonable way, it'll figure out what is the relevant part of the schema that it needs to form a SQL from. And it's going to use that. It creates some template tables to form the response. And it gives me the final thought, which is, I know the final answer. The final answer is suppliers with no products sold are these. And that's what I'm showing you here on this screen, is it responds back. It's a very powerful way to unlock database for business users where they don't have skills in terms of SQL writing or maybe even access directly to a database. So not sure how you're doing for time, but that's all I wanted to show you. So Pete, maybe you want to take over?
We're a bit over time, but I'm going to keep going for the recording, and anybody else that wants to stay on, the last thing I want to show you is the DALL-E. So sorry, hopefully if I click the right buttons, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I was a bit surprised, actually. A lot of people don't know that this exists. It has been talked about and advertised, but it's a really fabulous resource. So DALL-E 3, DALL-E 1, 2, 3 are OpenAI services for the generation of images from text descriptions. And this is entirely free. Anybody can go to the, if you search on Bing for Bing Image Creator, you can go and simply use it yourself. There's no charge for using it. I'm going to go through, I'm going to shorten what I was going to do, but very quickly, I'm going to take you through some of the images that I've generated in the recent times. I was creating a PowerPoint presentation on digital transformation for a lecture I'm giving. And so I needed some images for various things. And you can see that you type in the prompt here. It goes off and it generates the images, usually within sort of 30 seconds or so. It'll generate a few example images, which you can then ask it to change and tweak, or you can rephrase your prompt. The important thing to realize here is that the images are unique. It's not simply recalling, it's not a search engine, it is generating these afresh. So this horse and this jockey has never existed in real life, for example, but I asked it for horse racing on a track near the winning post. And it's given me what I think is a really, really good representation of a horse, which is actually quite a difficult thing to render. Slightly more easy, but a little bit strange, I'll admit, is I asked it, and there's a reason behind this, but I don't have time to go into it, an alien invasion over New York skyline with explosions and a giraffe between the buildings. Okay, and this is what it's done. It's going to be a slightly terrifying looking giraffes up there. It's not quite what I had in mind. I actually chose this one, and if I click into it, you'll see it a bit better. Reason I'm showing you this is not to show what a weird search history I have, but the giraffe is nicely inserted behind the buildings. It has a sense of 3D in this. It understands that that this building should not go through the neck of the giraffe, or the giraffe shouldn't be wrapped around a particular building. It has almost a physics in this in terms of what is appropriate. I've also asked it for cityscapes, so futuristic city landscape with glass towers and flying vehicles. I really like this because it's generated such an image with such a level of understanding. Not only is it generated realistic buildings with fairly realistic spacings, but it's generated an entire road network between them. I don't go through them or over the top of them, but it actually goes around them and between the buildings, and it's put vehicles on the road network. I asked it for none of that. I asked it for a cityscape. There's even a futuristic looking vehicle driving on a road here. So part of the reason I really like the software is it it will take my very crude idea of what I want to create and will actually create things of its own. So I've got many examples here. The other one I want to show you here is a woodland scene. So I asked it for a cartoon battle between lots of woodland animals, some up on a hill and some down on a valley. This is the one that I picked to use. As you can see, there are lots of woodland animals. It's picked an appropriate set of animals for the images. They appear to be engaging in some kind of a battle. And there are some up on a hill and some down in a valley. And it's taken the creative step of adding trees and a mountainscape in the background, clouds in the sky and birds. If I scan over to another one here, you'll see that in some of the images, it's armed them with weapons and so on and so forth. It's really taking my ideas that are not particularly creative. I'm not known for my artistic abilities, and turning them into images that have interpreted what I want much more than I told it. So last one I'm going to show you here is a crowd scene. I asked it for a crowd of people protesting. Right, and DALL-E 2, the previous version of this, was particularly poor at generating faces. If I drill into one of these here, you'll be able to see that actually it's come on leaps and bounds in terms of its ability to generate realistic looking faces. The challenge that any AI model has in generating faces is we have a million years of evolution as human beings, training our brain to recognize facial expressions and to recognize what constitutes a quote unquote normal face. There are still some issues with it. You still have to fight the prompts a little bit to get it to give you exactly what you're looking for. So I turned it around and used the back of people's heads for generating perfectly. But it just shows how things are coming on in leaps and bounds. And then here I've got a boardroom of mixed ethnicity, mixed genders, of people sitting around a boardroom table. And to me, that looks really good. Okay, so certainly good enough to include in a PowerPoint presentation as a set of images to illustrate something. Now, I'm more than happy. We've nothing else to show you today. I'm more than happy if somebody wants to throw it into the Q&A window to generate one for you, just to illustrate the process. If not, you can reach us at ai@tekenable.com or my email address peter.rose@tekenable.com. And I thank you very much for staying on with us for this length of time. I'll be here for another 2 minutes. If anybody does want to see one being created, just bang it into the Q&A window. Nope. Apparently not. What was the one you liked, Mo? What's the
teddy bear skateboarding in New York, Japanese animation. It's the only one I can think of.
I can't type skateboarding teddy bear. Skateboarding in Times Square?
Yeah, in Japanese animation.
And I'm sorry, what was the style?
Anime, Japanese anime.
Okay. How do you spell anime? I'm not sure how you spell it.
E.
Ringing me. Okay, see what he comes up with. There you go. I certainly couldn't do that. Okay, there's nothing else coming through on the Q&A in terms of requests, so I'm going to shut it down there. Well, thanks very much for your attention, guys and girls.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you another time. Bye, bye-bye.